Hi there.
Hi.
How are you? Sorry, I'd clicked on it like 15 minutes ago, and it just kept sitting there and sitting there, and it got after 10. I was like, "Am I on the wrong?" Anyway, I went off and back on, so it came on. So I'm sorry if
Okay.
I didn't mean to mess you guys up.
No, you're totally fine. You are good. So, yeah, well, so this is everybody. I think you can see everybody.
I
So we've
can.
got, yeah.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So they are all new, except for one,
Okay.
but so very basic.
Okay.
Go
So,
for it.
all right. Well, cool. Well, thanks. And I think if I heard correctly, you want me to talk for about an hour, right?
Yeah, if that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and thank you guys for having me. My name is Preston Sandlin. I own Home Inspection Carolina. I'm actually the substitute teacher today. Chip usually teaches this, so please don't throw spitballs or sit in somebody else's seat or anything like that. But so Chip's actually it's his wife's birthday, so they did a little getaway sort of thing. So
Oh, fun.
yeah, so I'm the substitute teacher today, and he gave me all the notes. So I hope I do okay. Chip is definitely the more technical of the two of us, but I've been doing inspections a long time and had just about everything that could go wrong at some point. So I can tell you a lot of stuff not to do, if that's helpful. Well, cool. So usually, I think the way Chip teaches his class is he goes over a couple of things that I think will be helpful for you guys moving forward with a home inspection. And obviously, that's a big hurdle in the process of selling a house. When you talk to seasoned agents, that's been around a while, and they ask you, what gives you the most headaches or gray hair or whatever. Home inspection's usually in the top two or three. So I'm hoping I can maybe flatten that. No, that's a terrible. I was going to say flatten the curve. Sorry, that's the wrong way to say that. But learning curve. Maybe flatten it. Forget I used that metaphor at all. Hopefully, I can take some of that headache away. I can tell you some of the things ahead of time, so avoid some of the headaches. So a couple of things. So the agenda is we'll talk about reading the report, and I'll pull up a sample report, some things to look out for, kind of how to read it, how to interpret it. Then we'll talk about re-inspections, and then we'll talk about radon a little bit, and then termites. There at the end, and at the very end, I have a little video about how to do a repair. And I also have two trivia questions for a Starbucks card at the very end, if we've got time. If you guys are in on that, try to make it a little bit more fun. Awesome. Well, let's start out with we're going to read the report, pull up a report in just a second. But a couple of overall themes I want to talk about in everything, just four. Almost anything can be fixed. Always remember that. Almost anything can be fixed. It's just a matter of, what it's going to take, and try to be logical. We're like the logical people, the real estate agent and the home inspector. But a lot of times, there's emotions are running high. So it's kind of up to us to keep it logical if we can. Almost anything can be fixed. There's obviously going to be a price for it. If you think about down in Charleston, I mean, some of those houses down there, they've got cannonballs. They've been through 2 wars, earthquakes. It's a rare house that's about to fall down. So almost anything, although I've seen a few, most everything can be fixed. The other thing to always remember is that a home inspection is, oh,
Puppy on the loose.
oh, cutie. I'm just hoping my dog doesn't start barking. It's either the dog barks or the neighbor runs they know when I'm on a Zoom call. It's like clockwork. But also important to remember that an inspection is a home inspection, and a termite inspection is a snapshot in time. And it's also visual only. So think about it like this. Home inspectors, termite inspectors cannot see through walls, and they cannot predict the future or read tarot cards. So it's just for that day only, a snapshot in time. And there's certainly some limitations that go along with it. And it's important to kind of understand those limitations so we don't over promise what it is to our clients. And two more themes. Make sure that all repairs are done by a licensed, qualified contractor. I cannot emphasize this enough, and I'll explain why as we're looking at the reports. And I can certainly tell you some war stories, but obviously I only have an hour, and you guys got other things you need to do today. But the fourth thing is, please use us as a reference. If you ever have a home inspection question or a termite question or anything, feel free to email us and send us a note. Or, if you've got a question, I'll try to answer it for you, or Chip will try to answer it for you. If not, put you in touch with somebody who can. And if you go to our website, homeinspectioncarolina.com, you can contact us there. Please, if anything you ever have home related, like I said, we'll try to answer it. And if we can't, we'll find somebody who can answer it for you. So let me start by showing you an inspection report. Is there a way we can enable the share screen? It's not letting me share screen. I think you have to do the little arrow thing on it there. Is she still there?
Oh, yeah. You know what I need to do? Sorry.
Yeah, I think if you go to the...
I'm going to add you as a host. Hold on.
Okay. It's just not letting me share is the only thing.
There you go. Wait. Now you're a host.
Let me try it now.
That should work.
Oh, yeah, there we go. All right. So let's look at a sample inspection report. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chip made this. This is a complete sample because I was going through it. And again, I didn't, I can tell because some of the crawl space, pictures aren't matching the house. I'm like, that's a lot older house, but he did this for teaching purposes. So, okay. So a typical inspection report, you're usually going to get it. It's going to be a PDF like this. I recommend having some type of reader. There's all kinds out there, Acrobat Reader or something. I like it where you can highlight. I don't know if you guys can see that, but you can highlight. You can even have this one read aloud. There's a whole bunch of freebies out there. That's just me to simplify things. But so usually you're going to get an inspection report. You're obviously going to usually have a cover picture, a little bit of information in the beginning, and a table of contents. And the cool thing about the table of contents is you can go straight to that, and go right to that section. So like if you wanted to see something about the roof system, you could click right on that and it would go right back to that. So, and you can obviously, it's just going to be a little thing over here on the right that scales down to the whole thing. But usually you're going to have a cover page, table of contents, and then the all-important summary. It is required by the state of North Carolina that all home inspectors, whether it's us, Home Inspection Carolina, use us, shameless plug, but they're all good. They have to have a summary, and it's almost always at the beginning of the report. Now, the summary is what the inspector has tagged, and he's required to tag certain items for the summary, material defects, safety issues, things like that. It is recommended, and it's in there. Please, 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 if you walk away from anything from this class, make sure that your client reads the entire report, not just the summary. I know a lot of times people read the summary and they don't read the whole report, and they base their asking for repairs on what was on the summary, and there's something on the main report that didn't get asked for, and then they're upset. And it's actually required that we have that statement in there. In fact, you can see it right there in orange. This is the summary page, not the entire report. Recommended that you read the entire report because, like cosmetic issues, things like that probably aren't going to be on the summary, but they're going to be on the main report. And, you can still ask for those. Now, I get it. I actually have my real estate license. I don't buy or sell. I just did it so I could have the key, so I could have access way back. But my point is, I realize the market right now is crazy demand and not enough supply. So that affects your repair negotiations, and what you can ask for. And I'm sure, some agents can tell you a little more about that. But anyway, look at the summary. And again, this kind of outlines it right here. Material defects, material defect is a specific issue with a system or component of a residential property that may have significant adverse impact to the value of the property or cause unnecessary risk. So safety item or something that affects the value. That's going to be on the summary. But again, there may be something on the main report, like a cosmetic item, that may not really affect the value, but it may be something that they want. Because a lot of agents in the past have used the summary as their repair request, and I'm not against that or for that. I mean, obviously, the job you guys have is very, very difficult, and I get it. Reading a 50-page report is among all the other stuff you have to do is a lot. But I can simplify it a little bit for you. So what I do if I'm reading a report is I go to the summary, but I'm going to go to the full report too. It's going to be a lot of repetitive stuff, but I go to each section, and I look at the pictures first just to get an idea of what they're going to be talking about. So obviously you're looking at a picture here of the deck and the steps leading up to the deck. Now, I know from looking at the pictures what's wrong here, but I'm still going to read. Let me see if I can. There. The following items is in need of repair, replacement. Have a qualified licensed contractor further evaluate and take additional repairs as needed or deemed necessary. And it says there are deck boards that are splintering and need to be replaced for safety. The stairs or the stringer are not secured by any type of ledger or joist hanger. The ledger or joist hanger gives the joist additional support to also prevent it from twisting or moving. A ledge or joist hanger needs to be installed to provide proper support and stability. So in other words, these steps are not supported very well, and a person my size, I'm not sure if it'll be safe for me to go up those stairs. You need to have a joist hanger and support it better. And obviously the deck boards are weathering. They must be to the point of replacement. Sometimes you can, if they're weathering, you can just pressure wash them and redo them. But so what some agents do is, they'll highlight it or cut and paste. If you have some editing, you can, print the summary out and say, I want all the highlighted items. Sometimes, usually the agent sits down with their buyer and say, what do we want to have repaired? And there is no law that, people always ask me, well, what has to be repaired? Technically, everything's negotiable. At the end of the day, the seller wants to sell the house and the buyer wants to buy it. Usually what happens is there's some form of compromise. Usually a couple of things they want and, come settle on, and, a couple of things they let go. But again, there is no rule, and also the market kind of dictates that. And right now there's so much demand and so little supply. Getting repairs done is a little bit harder than it is in a situation where you've got a lot of supply. In other words, when houses aren't selling very well, sellers are a lot more likely, we'll fix everything. But when they had, 54 offers in 2 days, you want what fixed? It's kind of like, we'll take the next offer, so that does play into it. Another thing I want to talk about for a second in talking about these repairs is, by state law, we have to do something called DDID. All home inspectors do, in our statements of all. And I know this sometimes as a realtor, you're probably looking at this going, why? DDID is describe, determine, implicate, and direct. So in other words, for every problem, we have to describe the problem. What is the problem? Determine what's causing the problem. This has to be in the statement. Implications if that problem's not fixed, and direction to have it further evaluated or repaired. I'm all for it. This sort of evolved over time because, all the laws are to protect the consumer. And it evolved over time. In the old days, we just said what was wrong and where it was. but I think a couple of consumers didn't realize, the implications of it or what to do about it. So they made this law, DDID. Every home inspector has to put this for every problem: describe, determine, implicate, and direct further. I like it, except when it gets a little ridiculous, like a loose toilet in my mind, but we're required to do this. I don't really, everybody knows the toilet's loose. I don't know. It gets a little ridiculous when you have to do it on every single thing, but that's what we're required to do by law. So if you see something really wordy, and if you look, it doesn't have to be in that order, but I'll give you we'll read one more example here, and I don't want to bore you to death, but I do want you to get to understand that's what's going on when you read a home inspection report. So again, I'm looking at this. I look at the pictures first because I'm just a very visual person. I see some cracking there. Obviously, that's probably going to be due to poor drainage or tree roots or something. Also, you got some siding there touching the roof that should be trimmed up. But I'm going to go back and read what the inspector said. The following items are in need of repair, replacement. Have a qualified licensed contractor further evaluate and make additional repairs as needed or deemed necessary. So that's the direction. And it says, have a qualified licensed contractor. Don't just have Joe Schmo in a pickup, and, because I can tell you some war stories on that. The cracks noted on the foundation siding and or along the rear of the home need to be sealed to prevent water intrusion. That's actually pretty good that they didn't recommend a structural engineer. They probably looked on both sides and determined it wasn't any of the, they're just saying seal it. Sometimes you'll see get a structural engineer. Keep in mind, on a side note, when you see cracks in brick, depending on the house, but a lot of times the brick is just a veneer. That's not what's holding up the house. The piers are actually what's holding up the house on a crawl space. However, they are a veneer, and they're letting you know that there's some movement going on. Now, if that movement continuing to go on, or is it something, from poor drainage that's been fixed, or tree roots, or something like that? Anyway, sorry, I got off. The siding is touching the roof shingles along the roof line where it meets the lower roof on the home. The siding needs to be trimmed back properly to prevent water damage along the siding where it's touching the roof. So you see within this description, they described the problem, determined it, implications of what could happen if it's not fixed, and directed them to further evaluation. So just DDID, that's going to be the case in all each time you pull up something. And again, I would go through, I'm not going to read each one because I know you guys would, that would be very painful and boring. But you sort of get the idea. Each one's going to have describe the problem, implication, and further direction. And it's usually going to be to get somebody, a professional out there to further evaluate and just determine whether repair is needed. Now, let me finish going through this inspection report. These are fogged windows. That's very, very common. Broken seal. You see that all the time. I want to give you guys a little pro tip here. If the house is less than 10 years old, usually those windows are under warranty. So always check that. If you have broken seals, there's really not a fix for them other than replacement. Basically, you have two window panes there, and there's a gas in between it that gives the house R value. And if that seal breaks, the gas leaks out and it loses its R value. Pretty common if you talk to realtors that been around a while. Fogged windows, they're usually about $100 a sash to replace if it's a common size or standard size. But if it's some odd, arch window or something, it can be rather expensive. But again, if the house is less than 10 years old, or the windows are less than 10 years old, I should say, they should be under warranty, and you can usually find out on the side who the window person is. Again, like this is a dishwasher that's leaking. I'm a very visual person. I know some people are visual, some people are more audio and whatnot, but I like to look at the pictures and then go back. And in the past, like I said, what a lot of people, now this crawl space, ooh, it has a lot of problems. Um, I can go through these pictures and tell you, that right there to me is a big problem. They've cut a joist. That's a double girder there, which other floor joists tie into that, and they cut that for a plumbing pipe. And that's an older home. I can tell by the wood. That house is probably in the 50s. It doesn't match the house that he's got on the cover. And that pipe is a newer pipe, because when this house was built, I'm sure it was iron pipes. So I think they've cut that thing recently. But anyway, that's a structural issue. They're going to have to come back and put some more piers in here to support that. Obviously, you got a pier over here that's missing some support and several other things. And I can tell you right now, this I can look at this picture and tell you this house has high moisture in the crawl space. Obviously, you see the effervescence along the walls. That's coming from where moisture has seeped in, but the salt that's in the moisture remained, and that's what you're seeing, the salt deposits. The other thing I can tell you that has high moisture is the moisture tries to evaporate, and as it does try to evaporate, it gets into the insulation, and it causes it to hang down. Whenever you have hanging moisture like that, you've got high moisture. You got temporary piers, screens they need to be repaired because you could get snakes and things like that. But anyway, I'll just sort of skim on through this. I don't want to read every single one, but I did want to bring you to, that was the summary. That's usually going to be on the front of the report, and then you're going to have the full report. It's going to be a little bit longer. And it's going to have the same things, the same pictures that you saw in the summary, but it's going to have extra information. It's also going to have a lot of the limitations that we talked about. And it's important to know, that a home inspection is not a warranty. It's not a guarantee. It's a snapshot in time of what they can see visually. And again, these are the same pictures, but there's going to be more information at the in the full report than there is in the summary. So let's see, at the very end, you'll usually find the inspector's phone number. So if you do have a question, you can call the inspector directly. I'm just zooming through here. Sorry to hold you guys up. Again, the same pictures. Your inspector, this is a sample, but their number will usually be right there. You can call or email them if you have a question. Also, the inspector will call you after they do the inspection to see if you have any further questions or verification. In the time of COVID, we can also go over the inspection report with you on Zoom if you'd like. I know some folks don't like to come to the inspection because of COVID and, that sort of thing. All of our guys wear masks, and we train them. I tell them, I said, just assume that everybody has it and they're asymptomatic, including yourself. So when they walk in, they wear masks. They have spray bottles with rubbing alcohol in it. Anything they touch, they spray afterwards, just in case they're asymptomatic or something like that. And we're definitely available to do FaceTimes or a Zoom if the client, doesn't want to come because of COVID, or if they live out of town, or, they just don't feel safe with that sort of thing. Any questions about the home inspection report? Okay. Well,
One question.
sure.
You can turn around time on getting a report back. Actual inspection on site to a report.
Yeah, turnaround time is usually the next morning, unless it's a really old house. In that case, we will contact you, but we promise a 24-hour turnaround. But that usually means the next morning. It's a rare thing when it takes longer than that, and if so, we'll contact you. But usually the next day, next morning. Inspectors typically they do part of the inspection on site. They do some of it on their phone, and then when they get home, they they transfer it to the computer and they finish it and put the rest of the details and stuff into it. Awesome. Awesome.
Oh, cost.
Oh, cost. Oh, great question, and thank you for asking that. It goes by square footage, and that's typically the way most home inspectors charge. Ours, I think, is, and again, I'm the marketing guy. I usually wear crazy pants. It doesn't work well on Zoom, but Chip's the technical, in charge of all the inspectors, and my wife does all the administrative. But we have to know a little bit about everything. But I think the cost right now is $315 or $318 for 1,500 square feet or less, and then it goes up $25 every incremental 500 square feet. Now, there's also additional services that. So what's included with a normal home inspection would be the structural mechanical inspection. There's 3 mechanical systems on a house: plumbing, electrical, and HVAC, and then the structural. Now, what would be an extra inspection would be a termite inspection. We'll talk about that in a minute. And that's $88, I think, for a termite letter. Now, certainly, if we do an inspection and see termites, we're going to tell you. And you might ask, well, when would you need a termite inspection? When wouldn't you? Usually, if there's going to be a loan on the house, you're going to need a termite inspection because the bank is going to require that. But termite is extra. Radon, if you that's an extra fee. Well, septic, if you're out in the country. Well, septic, and and pool inspections. I think they're all separate. One thing I want to talk about re-inspections a little bit is, let's say we do an inspection. You have a licensed person or the seller has a licensed person do the repairs. Make sure they're licensed, they warranty their work, and they have good reviews. What we'll do is go out and do a re-inspection, but really it's just a certification that those repairs have been done. But, we can't warranty somebody else's work. No inspector can, if that makes sense. That's why you need a reputable contractor. I can tell you, we've, an HVAC has been broken, and we called it out. It wasn't providing good temperature differentials. The HVAC company goes out and they repair it. People move in. It works well for 2 or 3 months, and then it breaks down. Now they're upset. Well, if it was a licensed, qualified company, you should have recourse with them. Does that make sense? So just make sure that you are getting a licensed, qualified person to repair, and they give some sort of warranty. That should be some questions you should ask, especially if you're on the listing side and you're going to have repairs made. Let's see. I was trying to think of a couple of other problems that you run into. It's like a roof repair. I can go out there and verify that a repair has been made, but until it rains, 8 inches, when we have a hurricane, you can't verify for sure that it's not leaking. Any other questions about the home inspection report? Awesome. Well, I want to move into the termite inspection. We do the termite inspection as well as the home inspection. Those are 2 different licensing agencies. We're licensed in both, and each report kind of has to stand on its own. But let me pull up the termite report. Let's see, where were we here? Sample report. Give me just a second. And like I said, the people who usually want the termite report are going to be your lender. Here we go. And this is a form that's it's standard. It's the same for all North Carolina purchases. If you get each company doesn't have their own. This is a state form. No matter who you get to do the termite inspection, this is the form they're going to use in North Carolina. It's called a WDIR, which is an acronym for Wood Destroying Insect Report. In South Carolina, it's a different form. It's the same information. It's called a CL 100 or Clearance Letter 100. Now, you might say, okay, so why does the bank require a termite letter? Well, it's usually because homeowners insurance usually does not cover termite damage. So before that bank will lend you or lend the buyer money on the asset, the house, they want to make sure that, that asset is worth the money, or there's nothing, definitely a material defect if it has termites is causing problems. And actually, just a normal home inspector is excluded from insect reports. In their laws, they're not qualified. It's a termite inspector that is going to inspect for wood destroying insects, primarily termites, but there's others. I'll tell you about those in just a few seconds. We're licensed in both, but just make sure that, hopefully you use us, but if you use a home inspection company, that's fine. But the home inspection by itself is not a termite inspection. You have to get somebody who's licensed in that as well. So how to read a termite report? You're going to see these, and it's a good idea to kind of have information on, what they are. There's basically 5 parts to a termite report. Let me see if I can, I know this is probably small. Let me see if I can zoom it in. That's probably a little better. The first part's just going to be the information, the buyer and seller's name. Look at the structures and make sure that if there's a garage, that either that's included, or sometimes, if it's a finished garage and it's a separate building, they may need a separate report for that, or it needs to be included. But you don't want to get into a situation where the finished garage, that's, it had termites, the house didn't, but the termite report was only for the house. So now somebody's got to write a check for, getting that repaired and treated. And termite treatments are not cheap, by the way. It's not like spraying for ants or roaches. It's probably about 65 to 75 cents per 1,000 square foot on the bottom floor. So, you're looking at usually around $1,000 almost always, and possibly more. All right, so the first part is the information. The second part is areas of the property which are inaccessible. Definitely look at this, because if the crawl space was too low, or there was storage you see this a lot, storage in they put everything in the garage. That means that this report is excluding that. And if once they move out, if there were termite tubes there, then again, somebody's going to have to write a check. So if you see this come back on the report, what you really need to do is make sure that somehow we get back out there and check that garage wall, or, whatever was inaccessible. We need to make sure it is accessible, or else it's going to be excluded from, the report, and the buyer is not going to be protected. So then we get down to the different types of damage. And this is box 3 through 4. And termites cause 95% of our problems. But they're not the only wood destroying insect that causes problems. Powder post beetles, old house borers, and others, carpenter ants, carpenter bees. But again, if on an average $1,000 worth of damage, 900 of it would be from termites. The other 100 would be divided between powder post beetles, old house borers, and ants. So they definitely cause the most problems. Now, typically what everybody wants to see is number 4 checked. No visible evidence of infestation from wood destroying insects. Again, going along with the theme, it's important to remember that this is just visual only. The termite inspector, home inspector, they're not pulling out walls or anything like that. It's just what they could see visual. So you need to make sure that you're not telling your clients, this is an absolute guarantee or warranty that they do not have termites. So let's talk about if you've got termites. If number 1 is checked, obviously your antenna are to go up. So there's evidence of subterranean termites. Now then there's 3 options after that, where the control measures performed, no control measures performed, visible evidence of a previously treated infestation, which now appears to be inactive. The one that's scary is number 2. They found termites, no control measures performed, which would be drill marks, bait stations. And termites noted at the band seal behind the front porch, which is actually really common. So something's got to be done here. What's going to have to be done is going to have to be treated, and the company that treats the house for termites will treat it, and then they'll issue a new letter with subterranean termites checked and control measures performed. And quite possibly, they usually give a warranty or a guarantee with it, so your buyer's protected. So number one would probably be checked after somebody treats for it. And number three, sometimes you'll see this: visible evidence of a previously treated infestation, which now appears to be inactive. I can tell you right now that if I go inspect a house older than me that was built before I was born, chances are, in its 51 years, it's had termites at some point, because when they initially build a house, they treat it, but that treatment only lasts about 20 years. So more than likely, it's had termites. I would expect, if I inspected a 50-year-old house and I saw number 4 checked, I would be highly suspicious. Probably what I'm going to see checked is number 3, subterranean termites, and hopefully visible evidence of a previously treated infestation. So what I'll see is some old tubes, or a little bit of damage that wasn't structurally significant, but then I see drill marks or something like that. That's pretty common. I will have to tell you that if any inspector finds evidence of termites, even if it's old, if they can't find signs of treatment, it's considered active by the state of North Carolina. That's just the way they look at it, and it's heavily regulated. Both home inspectors and termite inspectors have a state inspector that will come behind him, and I can put you in touch. But I don't encourage that being your first step if you have a problem. Your first step would always be to call the company, either the home inspector or the termite inspector, or if it's one and the same, and see if you can get it resolved there. But you do have a last resort in calling the state inspector, but I wouldn't make that your first choice. Just rounding out, you also have powder post beetles that can cause damage, old house borers, and others. And it's the same thing. Control measures performed, no control measures were performed, infestation which now appears to be active. So ideally, when you look at this, if number 4 is checked, that's great. But also look back to number 2 and see if there was anything inaccessible that you need to go back out there and look at. And number 5 is conducive conditions, which would be high moisture, insulation in the crawl space. So always look at number 2 and number 5 and the other ones. So just because you have number 4 checked, I've heard a lot of realtors say, "Oh, no evidence. It's a clean termite letter." Well, that's really a myth. There's no such thing as a clean termite letter. Be sure that you look at number 2 and number 5 as well. And do these indicate something else? If you've got high moisture in the crawl space, we've got to get that moisture level down via vent fans, laying down some new poly, something like that. There's ways. Basically, if either number 2 or number 5 has some stuff written on it, we need to correct that, as well as number 3 if it says anything but control measure, if it says no control measures performed. This is the termite letter, and this is the back of it, and this is what your buyer will be signing at the closing table usually. And it, sometimes you get a chance, read this. Again, it's just the limitations saying that, it was a visual inspection only, and, they didn't go into the walls or anything like that. Couple of pictures I wanted to show you guys real quickly. This is a termite, what a termite looks like. That's a worker termite. Usually on the top right there, you won't see this guy out in the open unless you break something open. They work 24 hours a day. They've been around since the time of dinosaurs. They make these tubes like you see down here on the left. This is a mud tube. If you ever see this on an inspection or a reinspection, give us a call right away. A lot of times, the house, like they put everything in the garage, right, to make the house more roomy or feng shui or whatever. And you can't get to the walls, but then when you guys do the walkthrough, you see this. Call us right away. In the old days, used to, we'd be like, oh, it's got termites. We're going to have to delay. And there's some more tubes you can see right there. They make mud tubes. Termites come from the ground and they have to return to the ground. They return to the ground for moisture, and they keep their environment totally enclosed. In the old days, if there were termites found at the last minute, closing would have to be delayed till somebody could get out there and give an estimate to get it treated. And then nowadays, because of technology, usually the termite company can pull up the house, see the square footage, give you an estimate. And I've seen them not delay closing, just go into closing and add that estimate into the cost, and and get it done. We all want the house to close, but we want the buyer to be protected. On the right here, you see some powder post beetles damage. That's what that looks like. It kind of looks like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with like buckshot or something like that, but if it's active, you'll see frass streaming out of it. That's the larvae. They lay eggs in there and the larvae digging out. And this is old house spores. One other thing to note here on the top left, just some terminology. You'll hear this all the time. Seal plate, band seal, and floor joist. The seal plate is just the flat piece there that goes on top of the foundation wall. And the band seal, our band board, is the vertical. It's the outermost floor joist. And it's usually a double. And obviously the floor joists are the framework or backbone system that holds up your floor. And usually you'll have girders and then floor joists that tie into those. So just so you got an idea when you hear that terminology. Any questions about termites at all? And then I'll go into radon, and just got about 15 more minutes here. Any questions about termite inspections? Again, it's the bank that requires it because they want to protect their asset. And times when you won't need it is if the person's paying cash, but I would still recommend it. Or if it's a new home, it usually comes with a termite warranty with it because they pre-treated it. Or if sometimes condos don't require it because it's provided with the association. But any questions about termite inspections?
They're good on the bus.
I hate that I can't be there in person. I used to bring live termites when I taught these classes, and I used to bring them to I used to bring them to like the shows and stuff. Like the what is it? The thing that the CR canopy puts on.
Oh yeah, like the fish fry.
Yeah. So I would bring my live termites. I would put them in I would put them in an aquarium, and I'd bring them in there. I'd go out, dig them out in the woods the day before, so because they'll live a couple of days, and I would bring them. It was a big hit, And one year at the fish fry, they put my booth right beside Canopy's booth. It was CRA at the time, and they were giving out cupcakes. And I didn't realize at the time, so I pulled the termites and I put them in this aquarium. Well, it was a log, and on the other end of that log had a bunch of ants. And again, my neighbors had cupcakes and I had ants. What could go wrong? So I'm surprised CRA or Canopy lets me come back anymore. He brings critters, but they do. Every time I get a booth now, they put me out by myself. Like, he brings live animals, so you better watch out for that guy. Yeah, we'll round this out with radon. Then we'll. I got a little video, but I don't want to run over time. I don't know how much time we got, and I'll play a quick trivia game for a coffee card. Radon testing. Just important to note, there's two different types of radon test. There's a passive test, which is like the charcoals, the kits you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, and they're very accurate if they're used properly. And then we have the active test, or passive aggressive. No, I'm just kidding. The active radon monitor. This is what a professional is going to use. Now you might say, well, okay, what's the difference? Pros and cons, that sort of thing. The one on the left is much cheaper. You can buy that kit for $15, and you mail it off, and you get your results in about a week to 10 days. And if you followed all the directions, it's very accurate. $15 cost. The one on the right is going to be about $180. I think that's what we charge. Usually between 150 to 200 with any company. Now you're going to get your results in 48 hours. As soon as we come back out there to pick that machine up, we can get the print off. The other advantage to the active monitor is it gives us a reading every hour in picocuries per liter. And it can also tell us if anybody's tampered with it. They've moved it, or they've left windows or doors open for more than 10 minutes to try to manipulate the results. Yes, we have had that happen. And we tell people this. When we set this test out, do not, I mean, you can go in and out like normal. You don't have to seal it up. But don't leave your windows or doors open or put a fan on it to try to manipulate the test. We will know, and it will give us a tamper thing, and we'll have to retest, and nobody wants that. So you might ask me, well, $15 or $185? Why don't we just always do the $15 test on the left? If you are just wanting to test your own home, and I recommend you do it once a year, just do the charcoal. However, if you're in a real estate transaction, don't do the charcoal. Get a professional out there, because here's the thing. A charcoal test, somebody could put it outside. They could open the windows and doors. They could put it in a freezer. Had that happen once. And as long as they put it back right before we came back to get it, we would never know. There's no thing on the passive test that tells us it's been tampered with. And it doesn't give an hour by hour. It just gives an average. We can see an hour by hour test, and every once in a while you'll see a spike depending on the weather. If we have a storm or something like that, it may spike a little bit. Basically, somebody could cheat or manipulate the results on a passive test or charcoal test. You can't manipulate or cheat an active radon monitor. So if you're testing your own house, you obviously have no motivation to, nor would you manipulate or cheat. And I'd like to think that no seller would ever manipulate or cheat any results. But what is it? Trust but verify type sort of thing. So this is your verification here. I would, in a real estate transaction, I would always use this. And again, it's going to usually consist of the inspector setting it out when they do the inspection and coming back with a minimum of 48 hours. It could be longer, but a minimum of 48 hours. Sometimes that gets a little tricky over the weekend, because we can't come back and get it. But it's okay if it goes longer, just not okay if it goes shorter. Quick little bit about radon. I know you guys probably went over it in real estate class. Radon comes from the breakdown of uranium in the earth, and it seeps up into your house via cracks around the slab, stack effect. In the winter, your house is warm. So if the air is cooler, it actually pulls from underneath. People always ask me, well, are certain types of construction more prone to radon than others? Not really. Yes, but no. Let me answer that. That's not the procuring cause of what causes high radon. Building a house over an area with radioactive uranium breaking down is what causes that. In other words, you build a house, it doesn't matter what the construction is, it's going to have high radon. If there were two houses identical on the same spot, a basement house surely would be a little bit more. They're both going to have high radon, but the basement house would have a little bit more. But you give me a basement house in an area that doesn't have radon versus a crawl space house over an area that does have high radon, the crawl space house is going to have the highest, if that makes sense. The procuring cause is where the house is built. Quick note about radon. A radon system is, when they install one, it's usually going to have a 4-inch pipe that they're going to drill a hole. It's going to have a fan on it. And the fans, you'll usually see the swollen part. That's where the fan is. And it's basically just going to pull the radon gas and expel it, usually above the house, somewhere outside. These things work great. If we do inspections in Asheville. We do it in Charlotte. We do it in Asheville, and we do it in Raleigh. More than half the houses in Asheville that we've inspected have radon systems, and they work if they're installed properly. They almost always work. It's been maybe 1 out of 100 is not working, and we'll certainly test. As a real estate agent, you're not expected to be an expert on radon, but if you see a 4-inch pipe going outside the house, or you see it down in the basement, your antenna should go up. Hey, you guys got high radon, or you did have. I mean, it's a rare person that puts this in as a preventative thing. It's not terribly expensive. It's usually like $1,500 to $2,000. But you just want to make sure that it's working properly, and I would certainly recommend a radon test. One thing to note: if you see one of these systems, somewhere on it, it's going to have a visible tube. This is going to be a little plastic tube that's see-through, and there's liquid in there. They usually color the liquid with dye, red or blue or green, so that you can see the liquid. And what you're looking for is displacement, because that tube goes into the pipe, and that fan that's running causes it not to be even. It's causing displacement, which means there's suction on the line. If those two are even, that fan's not working, and you need to get somebody out there right away. So I guess the moral of this story is, if you see the pipe, certainly ask about it. Obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I recommend a radon test on every house. We don't have as many areas of high radon as you would say in Asheville, but we still have some, and the only way to tell for sure is to test. That's really the only way. The coastal areas don't have as much, but I certainly would not be an agent to tell them not to do it. I would certainly bring it up and give them tell them the stuff about it. But if they decided not to, I would have them sign something saying that you recommended it, or that they declined it, so that if it ever came down to it, at the end of the day, having a high radon is not the end of the world. Like I said, it's usually $1,500 to $2,000 to fix. And if you're from the mountains, it's common. It's very common. I know some people freak out here or from the coast because I never had radon, but it's something that can be taken care of. And that goes back to the main theme I had, that everything can be fixed, or there's almost always a workaround. You'll get things like polybutylene piping. You'll get things like polybutylene piping, asbestos. Almost everything, though, radon, termites, can be fixed or controlled in some way. Just don't let that brick wall stop you. There's usually a way over, under, or around it. And if you need any help with that, just let us know. Please message us. You can go to homeinspectioncarolina.com and message us through that, and I'll try to help you with that. So, 3 minutes left. Who would like to try to win a gift card? I have 2 questions for a Starbucks card. And I'm trying to think how I can get in touch with you. Just send me a message at hicarolina1@gmail.com, hicarolina1@gmail.com, if you win, so I can send you the Starbucks card. All right. So, unfortunately, yesterday, sad day in the music. I play guitar. I'm not very good, but I had a best friend that was really good, and obviously our hero was Eddie Van Halen. I mean, everybody wanted to be Eddie Van Halen. Sad day that he passed. Without Googling it, what was Eddie Van Halen's son's name?
Okay.
Oh man, I don't know who said it first. All right. Yeah. All right. Second question. There have been 4 lead singers for Van Halen over, I think the band started in 74 or 75. There have been 4 different lead singers. Can you name 2 of them? And extra points if you can name all 4.
David Hager, David Ross.
Good. And the other two, gosh, I had it pulled up here, and I'm not as big a fan. After Sammy Hagar, I didn't keep up with, but there are two more. I tell you what, everybody who emails me will get a $5 Starbucks card. So it's hard for me to tell who was the winner. It's hicarolina1@gmail.com. Just send it there. The video I was going to show you, I just don't have time, is that we have an automated repair request where each item pops up and it gives you 3 choices. So you don't have to cut and paste, repair that item, replace that item, or monetary compensation. You can do a repair request in like 5 minutes. It's real easy. It's on our website. If you go to homeinspectioncarolina.com, click on realtors, it'll show you how to use it. Makes it easy. Thank you, guys. I hope I didn't bore you to death. But again, if you ever have a question, please don't hesitate to email or contact. I'll try to answer it for you, or Chip will. Chip's actually more technical than me. And if not, we'll put you in touch with somebody who will.
Thanks, Preston. It was great.
Thank you, guys.
Good. They want to know if you're the one with funny pants at Superior.
I am, and oh man, I'm not wearing any. I mean, I'm wearing pants. That came out wrong. I was like, oh, I'm not wearing any today. I'm just wearing khakis today. But yes, I am the crazy pants guy. And, hopefully, if you can embarrass your kids and be remembered, win-win.
How are you doing that on Zoom these days?
I've been doing the crazy backgrounds. This one's not too crazy. The other day I had Bigfoot and stuff, but yeah, I didn't know. I know it said a lot of new agents. I didn't know if you don't know who I am, you might think I'm a little loony. So I was like, I better kind of sort of be professional a little bit. Well, you guys send me that email and I'll send everybody a $5 Starbucks card.
Thank you very much, Preston. We appreciate it.
Thank you. You guys have a good day. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Generate repair requests fast and efficiently using the Realtor Repair Request System. Well, we're going to show you how to do that next from Home Inspection Carolina. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create the repair request, send the email directly, or download it as a PDF and email it as an attachment. So let's get started. First, you're going to receive an email from the inspector, which is going to provide you with a link, a username, and a password. You're going to click on that link, fill in the username and password. Once you log in, you'll be directed to your dashboard. From here, you can view details about the home, but we're going to focus on Create Request List. This is going to direct you to the repair request list. Here, you have several options where you can select Accept As Is, Add to the list, and there's more options in the upper right hand corner. The summary item is going to be listed to the left, and you can also use the drop down to select or jump to any summary item. So let's get started. Let's go through a few. I'm going to click Add to the list, and this is going to give me options to select repair, replace, or monetary value. For this example, I'm going to select repair. For this one, I'm going to accept as is. And this one here, I'm going to select a monetary value of $500. Now let's see how fast we can generate this repair request. Once we've completed the repair request, we can now view the repair list. After clicking View Repair List, we can now see the completed repair list. From here, you can click Send an Email, select the people you want to send the email to, or download it to a PDF, which then can be printed or used as an email attachment. Now you know how to generate a repair request, brought to you by Home Inspection Carolina.